Well, more back and forth in scrimmage number 2. Offense finds some footing, but the defense still made its mark. We'll break down who stood out on both sides of the ball right now.
You are Locked On Mississippi State, your daily podcast on the Mississippi State Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Jaron Spor. I'm a national college football writer at Athlon Sports. That's Landon McBride. We've got some scrimmage notes to talk about today. We also got to talk about the offensive line size because the numbers have come out for, I'm assuming what they project is the starting offensive lines for all the teams and who has the biggest offensive line. Remember, Mississippi State was one of the smallest last year. So we'll see where they land this year. Also, the Big Ten is pitching an interesting playoff idea. Do we agree with it? Do we think we should move in that direction? We'll talk about that at the end of the show. But first, we got to get into some scrimmage notes. Scrimmage number 2 took place. I believe it was on Saturday that it took place. And there wasn't a whole lot out there. Again, it's always closed. But I listened to Jeff Lebby talk, read what the Maroon and White Daily put out. Matt Wyatt, former Mississippi State quarterback, even did a whole YouTube video of it. Watched that and listened to kind of what his thoughts were. But he kind of didn't just talk about the scrimmage, but kind of talked about the offseason and what he's seen so far. But some of the quick hitters, Blake Shapen was solid, had a touchdown pass. Kamario Taylor had a short touchdown pass. Booth and Fluff Bothwell both had solid days, with Fluff getting a short touchdown on the goal line. Also, Cannon Boone was a name that was mentioned that did really well at center. And then on the defensive side, Jett Jefferson had a really strong day in coverage. Combine that with what Kelly Jones did in scrimmage 1. That's some positive news. Some defensive guys who had tackles for losses and sacks were Brandon Jennings, Jamil Burrows, and Will Whitson. Lebby, I even listened to him. He talked about many of the new guys on the defensive line. Will Whitson was one he mentioned. But overall, sounds like much more balanced this time around, whereas the defense kind of dominated the first scrimmage.
Yeah, it does sound like the offense took a step forward, which, I mean, you're hoping for, because everything that came out of that first one was that the defense kind of ran that show. So it's good, but it's the same thing. When you're beating up your own team, you don't know how to feel.
Yeah.
But, he talked about how he's seeing a lot of progression from guys, but when you're the head coach and you're watching them, you're never going to be happy with where things are, which, you hope that's what your coach's answer is. That's like, yeah, we're better, but we're not all the way there yet. So, yeah, I mean, it sounds good. And it also sounds like we're getting a little bit of clarification on the backup quarterback situation. It does sound like Kromenhoek is kind of solidifying himself as the number 2, even though Kamario Taylor is still putting on a show. I think it's more they trust him to run an offense more than anything. That might be me reading into things a little bit too much, but it does kind of seem like that is kind of taking shape.
Yeah, and another thing that was kind of interesting about the notes was they talked about Kamario Taylor and Luke Kromenhoek, and we know Luke was obviously a highly touted player as well. We've been talking about Kamario a lot. We are big fans of Kamario, but Luke was also a very highly touted player. Didn't have a great year, but he was a freshman, and that Florida State was a disaster last year all over the field. Offensive line, couldn't run the ball, can't put a lot on him. But the interesting thing I thought was someone questioned, man, it's hard to redshirt someone as talented as Kamario, and you risk losing him. And Paul Jones from Maroon and White Daily responded and said, hey, right now Luke is ahead of him, and Luke is the better runner, which was a little bit of a surprise.
I think he has to mean like he picks his spots better, because I don't think there's any way that he's a better. No offense to Luke. obviously he's a great athlete. He's at this level, but I feel like Kamario's a special athlete, like one of those guys that is just different.
And he did clarify. He said he's a more physical runner. Kamario uses his legs well when needed, but has never been run first quarterback. So there you go.
And that makes sense. And that's also, you don't want to run first quarterback.
Right.
At least I don't. I want a quarterback who can run.
Yeah.
So, and I kind of always expected that would be the way this would go this year. I mean, Kromenhoek, like you mentioned, he's not a slouch, very highly rated guy,
Mhm.
and showed some flashes at Florida State, but that team was such a disaster. You can't take
Such a
anything
disaster. Yeah.
away from that. So I do think that's starting to solidify itself a little bit, and still sound. I mean, obviously Booth and Fluff still putting up good numbers or good showings out there. Johnny Daniels got mentioned. So it looks like the running game is coming along too. I mean, there's just so many notes to go through, but yeah, seems like running backs looking good.
And you look at Luke's numbers in 6 games last year. Remember, true freshman, 500 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks, 52% of his passes completed, 113 yards on 1.8 yards per carry. They don't jump out to you.
No,
Don't
it's also not terrible.
Right. And Florida State, again, was a disaster last year. That's when you go from a top 10 team to preseason to 2-10.
Yeah.
This means you were a disaster. But people forget he was a 5-star on 3, top 50 overall, like through all the sites, but 5-star on 3 just in last year's class, the 2024 class. So he is very talented and could be a really good player for them. And, maybe we're jumping the gun on Kamario because a lot of the hype has been on Kamario. Even his teammates have put that on him with, saying that he's going to win a Heisman one day. Another thing I thought was interesting, we're going to get into the offensive line next a little more, but apparently Jimothy Lewis, the redshirt freshman, was starting at left tackle, and Blake Steen, the junior, was starting at right tackle. According to our lads, which again, they do a great job, and we've said this many times, of kind of giving you at least an idea of what the depth chart will look like. It's not official. It's not what the coaches are putting out. It just gives you a good idea. But they had Jimothy backing up Blake Steen and Luke Work starting at left tackle. And so for Jimothy to be the one that's getting the starts so far in camp, they on 3 even put out their projected depth chart, and they think Jimothy is going to end up starting at the left tackle. They think Cannon Boone, as we mentioned, is going to end up winning that center. I thought Brennan Smith would probably win that center spot. And we've heard a lot of good things from Kobe Keenum, but it sounds like Cannon Boone's been playing really good. Yeah. According to them, Luke Work is working more as a left guard. So maybe that would be why he's kind of competing there. And from what they said, the 2 guard positions are apparently the tightest battle probably on the whole offense. Albert Reese, Zach Owens, Jacoby Jackson, Luke Work, Trevor Mayberry. Like, these guys are the ones that, that's apparently a really tight battle. And I don't want to give too much away because, again, we're going to talk about that next segment. But Matt White talked about the offensive line, and he talked about the size, which, again, we'll talk about. But he also said, just going off of the offensive line, he thinks the offense is going to be much better because, in his belief, and we both agree with this statement, if you have average skill positions but a really good offensive line, that you will have a really good offense. But if you have great skill position and a bad offensive line, you will have a bad offense. That offensive line makes everything go, and he thinks that's why the offense is going to be much improved because he sees a ton of depth.
Yeah, there's so much depth, which is great. And it is interesting that Jimothy's overtaking Luke Work at left tackle because in the spring, every note we found out, that we heard about the guys who were here in the spring and working out was that Luke had put in a ton of work. He was showing a lot of progress from his freshman to sophomore year. But maybe, under Loadholt, they found out, maybe his skill set translates a little bit more to the interior. So he's in a battle on the inside. And I mean, going off of, if he's in there with Jacoby Jackson, Albert Reese, and Trevor Mayberry, those are 3 guys that are all seniors or a graduate transfer. Yeah. So if he doesn't beat those guys out and he redshirts for a year, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, he's changing positions and going up against guys who are grown men in college football at this point. So, but I mean, hey, if he's in that battle and showed that kind of progression, that means great things for the depth of the offensive line moving forward.
For sure. And Lebby talked about the depth, not just on the offensive line, just in general in this most recent interview after the scrimmage. And he again talked about last year, how they couldn't really practice, how they didn't even have really a scout team because they were so low on depth. He said they ran 110 plays in this most recent scrimmage and thought everyone held up real nice. And so that just made it better because you've been able to do more of that. So it just shows how bad of a spot Mississippi State was in when he took over, which we knew that, but you really saw it last year. And so I think that's why there's some optimism for this year. But on the flip side, they have one of the toughest schedules in the country. So we'll see how much that results into winning. But all right, coming up next, we got to talk about the offensive line size because it's raising some eyebrows because there's been big changes on the front. We'll talk about that coming up next. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason is already heating up, and college football isn't far behind. Whether you've got your eye on big-name quarterbacks or breakout running backs, Prize Picks makes it easy to get in the game. Some of the things I'm most excited about, obviously I'm excited about Mississippi State football, what this offensive line is going to look like, what the quarterback position is going to look like. But if I'm going big picture in college football, all eyes are on Arch Manning at Texas to see what kind of player he actually is. Does he live up to the name and all the hype? Does he kind of falter? Really excited about that to see what happens there. Also, if you have never used Prize Picks before, Prize Picks is very simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 players, stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could cash in and win up 2,000 times your money. I know several people that use Prize Picks for a few seasons and love how simple it is. They can get a lineup in before their coffee even finishes brewing. That's how fast it is. Maybe you want to fill up a lineup with full Mississippi State players. You can do it. Well, the flex play option is a total game changer as well. Even when one of your picks misses, you still doubled your money. Prize Picks puts your members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. Prize Picks, run your game. And if you're trying to stay on top of your routine, whether it's workouts, long days on campus, or staying focused through back-to-back classes, hydration is where it all starts, and that's where Drip Drop comes in. Drip Drop is doctor-developed and scientifically proven for fast hydration. It uses the perfect balance of sodium, electrolytes, and glucose to help your body absorb fluids quickly, delivering 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of a leading sports drink. I got the zero sugar packet. You can get zero sugar. You can get with sugar. I did the zero sugar packet. It came with lemon lime, which was great, passion fruit, watermelon, peach. I think those were the 4 it came with. Watermelon was my favorite. I loved all of them, but watermelon was my favorite. I drink it. I've talked about this. Drink it every morning. Just kind of start my day with some electrolytes, with some hydration as well. I've tried a lot of different electrolyte powders, but nothing really tastes as good or works as fast as Drip Drop. You get a lot of flavors that say it's, watermelon and doesn't really taste like watermelon, or it tastes like a watered down watermelon. This one doesn't. It tastes just like it. It is very, very good. And you can keep a few packets in your backpack, take it to work with you, whatever you want to do, and it's easy to go. Right now, Drip Drop is offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first order. Just head to dripdrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege. Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day. Part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, so this stat kind of came out there on Twitter, and it kind of caught my attention. Mm-hmm. It's the heaviest offensive lines in 2025. Number 1 is Texas State. Number 2 is Texas A&M. Number 3 is Colorado. Number 4 is Mississippi State. And number 5 is Iowa State. Remember, Mississippi State was one of the lowest in this stat last year. Yeah. Now they're the 4th highest at 6'4" and 6'4.6 and 325.2 pounds is what their average height and then weight is. And I did not think it was a coincidence that number 3 was Colorado. Where did that come from? Phil Lodeholt, what he built, and then Phil Lodeholt completely changing the offensive line this year.
Yeah, I noticed that same thing right away, that the 2 of the 5 heaviest had something in common. But that's huge because it's very easy. If you don't have a big offensive line, especially in the SEC, you're going to get pushed around. Right. And we saw that. I mean, there's 12 games of footage of that happening. Mm-hmm. So hopefully this is a step in the right direction. We mentioned it. The depth is there. There's a lot of pieces there that seem at worst to be competent linemen. And this is big. The weird thing to me is that Texas State's the biggest.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, what the heck are they on?
I'm looking at it, and it's making sense as I'm looking at it. The guy who's the head coach of Texas State actually played against him a little bit in high school, but he's recruiting that area. And there's a lot of very large people that do not quite have what it takes to get all the way to D1, like the high levels of D1. So he's just living in that area. So that makes sense to me.
They're massive. He's got some massive dudes there. But no, I mean, you were exactly right, because this offensive line had to be changed completely, and that's exactly what they've done. And they had to get bigger, because there was this theory for a while, and I just don't understand it. But there was this theory for a while that you just need to be smaller and faster on the defensive line and offensive line. Both line of scrimmages, just smaller, faster. That was what was better. It's just not reality, because if you got a 280-pound center or a 300-pound guard, the law of physics says a 320, 330-pound D tackle is going to push you around. And that's what we saw. And so, you're going to lose some of that speed by being bigger. And we hope they're not slow. You hope you're not big and slow. Hopefully you're big and still athletic. Yeah. But I would rather be big and slow than small and fast, because even if you're big and slow, you can be a really, really dominant run blocking team, because you can keep things in tight quarters and make it where you don't have to be very fast to make things happen. And so that's something that we've talked about many times that we think is going to happen with Mississippi State this season.
Yeah, that's very true. And you can't have the small guys unless your center is Tyler Linderbaum. You're getting overpowered at 280 pounds. So, and we've got a lot of big guys in there, and it seems to be working, because the majority of the things we read are how good the running game is working in these scrimmages. That running game isn't going to be doing good if the offensive line didn't open up holes. So they're moving some people in scrimmages and in practice, and if you can do that, I mean, that opens up this whole offense is going to be wide open if they are just competent on the defense or offensive line and are able to open up holes like that.
Right. And I'm looking at it right now. SEC offensive line's average starter weight for 2024, Mississippi State, 317 pounds, near the bottom of the SEC. 325 right now would be the fourth highest last year in the SEC. So it's a big jump that they've made. Also, in overall weight for all offensive linemen on the roster, Mississippi State was dead last year. And you can't say it's because they only had 8, which is another crazy part. A&M had 23 guys. A lot of them had 23, 22, 21. Mississippi State only had 18, but LSU only had 18 and was bigger. Missouri only had 19, was bigger. Auburn, 19, bigger. Oklahoma, 19. Arkansas, 19, all bigger. So it's not like the 18 affected them super much. But, I mean, they were small last year, and they had to get bigger, and that's what they've done.
Yeah, and hopefully it's enough to open holes in the running game and keep Shapen healthy, because you can keep him upright, give these receivers a chance to get downfield. This could be fun.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. All right, coming up next, the Big Ten has an interesting playoff idea. Do we agree with it? We'll talk about it.
If you're running a business, every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you needed a service. If the first person didn't answer, did you wait? Probably not. You moved on, and that is why you need OpenPhone, so you never miss an opportunity to connect with your customers. OpenPhone is the #1 business phone system designed to streamline and scale your customer communications. If you're juggling 2 phones to keep your business and personal calls separate, OpenPhone can solve that instantly. And your whole team can share one number and respond to customers kind of like a shared inbox. And you don't have any more of that, who's handling it? Did you get that call? Did you get that message? It's just all in one place. And an AI agent handles the after hours calls, answers common questions, and captures leads, so you never miss a customer again. And see why over 60,000 businesses trust OpenPhone. They're offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/lockedoncollege. That's OpenPhone.com/lockedoncollege. They'll even port over your existing numbers for free. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers.
All right, well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Landon, so the Big Ten had an interesting idea on the new playoff format. They want to go to 24 or 28 teams. What's your thoughts on that?
I think that everything the Big Ten throws out there is they're just trying to get every Big Ten team into the playoff, and they're just going to keep upping the number until they find out a way to get there. I don't love it. I would have liked an 8-team playoff. 12, I think, is a good number to stay at. I don't really know why we're trying to add. I know the answer. It's money. But I don't really understand why we're trying to add more and more games and push the college football season farther and farther, into January. It's kind of getting crazy. And if you do that, people are already talking about, this playoff has, kind of taken some of the luster and the fun away from some of these big time matchups in the regular season because both teams are going to make the playoffs. If you up it to 28, who cares about the regular season? I mean, you're going to have you're going to have 6 and 6, 7 and 5 teams making the college football playoff.
Especially if they're SEC, Big Ten type teams, you're getting in at 7 and 5. I mean, you just are. 8 and 4, worst case scenario. But I again, it's because of money. That's why they want to do it. Yeah. The only reason why I would be somewhat open to it was if the season started in July now, just because I would love football to start earlier.
Move that calendar way up.
Yeah. I would love that, but no, I think it's a terrible idea. I think 8 was probably the best. 12 made sense. Like, it's fine. I understood it. If they go to 16, that's kind of where I'm like, okay, we got to stop there.
That's the end of it.
Yeah, if you want to do 16, I understand it. I even understood the mod. Like, there was a model, and I can't remember how they did it, but it was 16, but several teams still got buys and all this stuff, and so it wasn't just 1 versus 16, and like, that's how they did it. And so that stuff made sense. But people also got to remember that, yes, while these guys are quote unquote professional because they can now get paid by NIL, they are still students. So they still have finals to take in December. They still have school and stuff like that to study for. Like, it's hard. Like, one of the reasons why they had the long gap before bowls is because that's when finals weeks are. And so it lets these kids take time out to study and then take finals. And I understand people are going to say, well, student athletes don't ever study or do school. And some of them definitely do. I mean, I understand.
Yeah, like the top guys. I mean, a lot of them
have to, but
they don't have to. But I mean, the rosters are 100 people.
Right.
I mean, even off the best rosters, 25, like the greatest rosters ever, 20 of them actually could make a career.
Yeah, right.
Football. So, I mean, the majority of these people have to get this degree to rely on it. So, yeah, they do have to study.
Yeah, 100%. And so that's where it becomes a little difficult. Now the question would be, you would have to move the season up earlier. Is really what you would have to do. Otherwise, you're going to end in February, and you don't want to compete with the NFL playoffs. You also, and that also means you're going to lose out on your Labor Day weekend. That's kind of where they want to kick off the season, always on Labor Day, and have this big, because that's right before the NFL season starts. It's a holiday where people are off. It lets college football have the whole weekend, like we're about to see in a couple weeks. And they love that. And I love that as a fan. Like, I love us having our own weekend, and it's the opening weekend of the season. You have all these marquee matchups. You would lose that because you would have to start the season like now. You would or a week ago or 2 weeks
holiday
ago.
Started July 4th.
Right. It would
50 teams in the playoffs.
Right. You would almost have to do something like that. And so that's why, like, again, if you want to go to 16, I get it. That's where you got to stop, though, because at some point it's getting ridiculous with how many teams you're putting in there. It's obvious it's just about money, and we talked about this maybe a week or two ago. It only benefits the best teams in the sport even more because it's all going to be about depth at that point, and the biggest name programs are going to be the teams that have the depth.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how many times you expand this field. It's going to be those same 6 to 8 teams every year. I mean, every now and then, it'll be 5 of those teams and 3 others sneak in or things like that. But I mean, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be those same teams over and over.
Right.
Do you always follow the FCS model at 24 where the top 8 seeds get buys? But I mean, that's still too many.
Yeah.
I think I don't know. I don't like it.
Yeah. Let's just not change stuff too much. And I understand the other argument is, There's a lot of people that didn't like the playoff and now love it. And there's a lot of people that didn't think the 12-team model would be good, but now love it. And so I understand that point of view. Like, until we see it, we might not like it. But as of right now, I don't love the idea.
They got to change a lot if they're going to make it happen. They're going to have to make a lot of changes to how scheduling and just college football in general works if they expand it that much.
Yeah, for sure. And you're going to lose a lot of marquee. I think you would lose a lot of marquee non-conference games. Although at that point, if you lost that game, it's not going to hurt you.
More because
you could have more. Yeah, you could have more. Because right now that one loss could hurt you. But on the flip side, if Clemson LSU is the first week of the season, whoever loses that game is not even close to being out of it.
No. And by week 72, no one's going to remember that game.
Right. Exactly. So you don't want to devalue the regular season at all. So there's still some things they got to work out. But all right, well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day. For your second listen, check out The Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. By The Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. I'm Jared. Check out my work over at Athlon Sports. That's Landon. Follow us, Locked On Mississippi State. We're on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. We post daily videos Monday through Friday, so check those out. Also hit that like, subscribe, ring the bell on YouTube. It helps us a lot. Helps us get to our 1,000 subscriber goal by early college football season. I believe right now, if it will load, we're nearing in on 800. Yeah, 783. So we're getting even closer to 800. So thank you guys so much for the support and for subscribing to us. And college football season, and week 0 kicks off this week, and then we're getting into the season on the 23rd. On Saturday, and then obviously our season kicks off the following week. So a lot of exciting things. But until next time, Hail State.
Hail State.